Hey, Miss Crawford. How are you? I'm hoping you're the only one who will ever watch this. Don't show this to any other classes. Anyway, I'm doing a book report thing on The Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I know. It's had to be a fantasy, and, my favorite book trilogy, actually book series ever in general, is The Lord of the Rings. And of them, The Fellowship of the Ring is probably up there with my favorites. Maybe Return of the King, but I really like The Fellowship of the Ring. It's probably my favorite book ever. So I know it's not Harry Potter. I'm sorry. It's Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. And I hate to say it, but Lord of the Rings always wins. It's just, I don't know. It's my favorite music comes from the movies. I think the movies were done amazingly. I don't know. So anyway, getting down to business, looking at different characters, I'm going to look at Gandalf and Frodo at first. Gandalf is very different from Frodo. Most people don't realize it. Even down to their physical characteristics, Frodo is short, young, and stout. Yes, he's in fact chubby. He is a hobbit, and maybe at the end of the Fellowship he'd begin to lose weight, since he'd only been eating 3 meals rather than his usual 6 or 7, but, hobbits were not thin. No matter how the movie portrays them, that is wrong. Whereas Gandalf is old, tall, and thin, and even if he was chubby at the very beginning of the book, he would have thinned out when he was held prisoner by Saruman. He would have lost all his extra weight then. Anyway, jumping into mental characteristics of Frodo, and the other hobbits for that matter, Frodo is rather happy and naive, whereas Gandalf is old, wise, and very experienced when dealing with others. Frodo is quick to trust, and his interactions with Strider are a prime example of this, as he trusts Strider when all Strider gives him is information the enemy would probably already know. And he's pretty easy to trick, let's just look at Tom Bombadil in the Old Man Willow story to just show how truly unexperienced the hobbits are. Gandalf, on the other hand, is slow to trust, as he shows his dealing in the mines of Moria, and he won't choose a path until he has to go down the other, and he's extremely hard to trick. Saruman has been his friend for a very long time, and he attempts to trick Gandalf, and he sees right through it, and the only way Gandalf is captured is because he's outmatched in power, and not in wit. As you can see, Gandalf and Frodo are very different. Yeah, the second pair of characters I'm going to look at are Legolas and Gimli. Legolas and Gimli are also very different characters. Just like Gandalf and Frodo, Legolas and Gimli share similar physical characteristics. Legolas is tall and thin, as he is an elf, and Gimli is short and stout, as he is a dwarf. A big difference between the two pairs is Legolas and Gimli start off hating each other, elf-dwarf rivalry, whereas Frodo and Gandalf are actually on pretty good terms with each other. When you get into mentality, Legolas is sensible and sometimes what a feeling. He's very sensible, like when the orcs are chasing them, he just about knows that they have to go, whereas Gimli is unsure of what the heck is going on sometimes. And when he's void of feeling, that's also pretty true. When they're leaving Gadachil, he doesn't cry, and he barely sheds a tear when Gandalf dies. So, Gimli is quite opposite, using the same examples. When Gimli is being chased down, he has no idea what's happening with the orcs chasing them. He doesn't see at all Gollum, whereas Legolas does, or has a feeling of him. But he's very full of emotion. Legolas, whereas sometimes void of it, Gimli cries openly. Like when they leave Gadachil, it says in the book, he openly wept about leaving Gadachil and how fair she was, and same with Gandalf. That's a pretty big difference between the two, and throughout the Fellowship of the Ring, it's interesting seeing all these different personalities, when they come together, how they make up the Fellowship really, really affects the story. Because at first there are a lot of contentions between them, almost just harsh feelings between them, but then after they leave Gadachil in the forest, that's basically when things are at their height for everyone in the Fellowship, before Boromir starts threatening Frodo and such. It's basically, that's when things are at their height. The only sad thing about it is Gandalf not being there to share that with them. But, yeah. So, I'm going to go off on improv just a little bit to compare Boromir and Aragorn. it's like combined the feelings of Legolas and Gimli combined, I mean, the characteristics of Legolas and Gimli and the feelings between them of Gandalf and Frodo. They start off on really good terms, and even throughout the book, that's continue that way. Whereas they also mirror Legolas and Gimli feeling wise, because Aragorn is mostly void of feeling and extremely sensible, whereas Boromir is full of feeling and even gives into his feelings as he tries to take the ring from Frodo. So to both are men this time. It's not even to change a race, but it shows just how many different characteristics there are in the Fellowship. So that's probably the biggest three examples of different characters. The hobbits are all... Merry and Pippin are basically the same character. They like to insult each other, and Merry generally wins. But, yeah, Sam is going with Frodo no matter what. Very, very, very attached to Frodo, so he almost mirrors him in character. And then Merry and Pippin are practically the same character. So those are probably the three biggest differences in characters. And they were interesting to look at and think about that way. The Fellowship of the Ring is written in third person limited. It's a bit weird, and the narrator changes from character to character, but the only character you know their thoughts of, and the character that's followed throughout the book, is Frodo Baggins. At the end, there's a small section that's written in the point of view of Aragorn, which is why it's a little bit weird, because, then it's from his point of view, but you're never able to actually know his thoughts. And so it's a little bit of an interesting view. It's a little bit different, but I'd call it third person limited, because the only character that you actually get to know their thoughts is Frodo. The point of view, if it were written in third person omniscient, you'd get a pretty different view of the Fellowship. It's mostly because you'd have more than just Frodo's thoughts on the different members. You'd actually have their actual intentions, which I think Frodo is often misguided in it, and their intentions, and you'd be able to know what they're thinking, because sometimes it's almost like each one is hiding a little bit, especially Boromir at the end, but you figure that out. So you might also be able to know Gollum's thoughts and his point of view as he trails Frodo in the ring and the Fellowship, and that would add another dimension to the story. I think it'd make it very interesting, and I'd actually like to read it in that omniscient point of view, and maybe if I ever have time and I'm not extremely loaded with everything else, I may try to read it in that, but I don't know, that seems like biting off a whole lot. I don't know. So yeah, point of view. So yeah, now for music. I'm actually going to use the movie music because, it's amazing and beautiful, and I would use it for every bit of the book. So the music actually has a ton of moods incorporated into it. So even a single track can have several moods and can be associated with several different things. So I'm going to show you a few of these modes, and I'm going to play the music to go along with it, and hopefully you'll be able to guess what it is. So here's the first one. This is happier music. Alright, so that was our happier music. If you haven't guessed what it is, I may be slightly disappointed in you. I'm sorry. That's probably my second favorite track in the Fellowship. Yeah, probably second favorite track in the Fellowship. Probably fourth favorite overall. Probably third favorite in the Fellowship, fourth overall. So really, in my opinion, a really good track. It is Concerning Hobbits. It's probably one of the happiest tracks in the Fellowship, and it's written with the carefree lifestyle, carefree, happy lifestyle of a hobbit. So, quite entertaining. Now it's time for really a little bit more frightening music. Let's see if you can guess this one. So yeah, that's a little bit more frightening track. That is actually A Knife in the Dark. So that's the kind of the part where Frodo meets Strider. Strider takes him into his own room, and the Ringwraiths come and basically stab all the pillows on the bed that they have stuffed to make it look like sleeping hobbits, and the writers are quite upset at that. So yeah, that is our more frightening one. Now it's time for a little bit sadder one. This is probably my third favorite track overall, second favorite in the Fellowship. I know. Three of my favorite tracks come from the Fellowship, and I'm not going to share all three with you. I'll tell you at the end what they are, but this is my probably third favorite song overall.
May it be the shadows will fly away. May it be you journey on to light the day. When the night is overcome, you may rise to find the sun.
So yeah, that is our little bit sadder track. I just kind of thought, especially for that song, it may be a little bit cracky coming through with the recording, but if that's true, look it up and listen to it on YouTube. It's probably the best way to listen to it, or just watch the movies because they're really good. Either one, both work. This song is actually at the very end of the Fellowship, and it's basically when Galadriel is singing to the Fellowship and all, but mostly Frodo, because the way that he bears, basically saying, what's going to happen is going to happen, make the best of it. So that's our frightening one. Sad one. Let's go for a little bit more happier. Let's go for a heroic sounding one. So tell me what you think of this. So yeah, that's a more heroic or even hopeful piece. So yeah, those are our four pieces. I don't know. I think I'll show you this. This is my favorite song in any of the Lord of the Rings. I'll tell you my number two. My number two is the Isengard theme, which is themed throughout the Fellowship of the Ring, mostly when the orcs and Uruk-hai of Isengard are chasing them. But it's really highlighted in the second movie. But my favorite track comes from the third movie, and I'd like to see if you could place it. So yeah.
This behind the world ahead, and there are many paths to tread through shadow to the edge of night, until the stars are all alight. Mist and shadow, cloud and shade, all shall fade, all shall fade.
So yeah, that is my favorite song in any of the Lord of the Rings, and probably my favorite song ever, actually. I know, no life, I'm a nerd. But yeah, so those are the songs that I really help. I do have a few problems with the music that they use. I really don't think that there are enough songs with lyrics in them. There are only about one or two each movie, and reading The Fellowship, there are like 10 songs just in The Fellowship, probably more, but 10 songs that I really noticed in The Fellowship, much less the other two books, and to only use about 6 songs with actual words in them is kind of disappointing. When you're listening to May It Be, I probably should have told you this. There is a part in Elvish, so don't expect to understand all of it. You can look up the lyrics of it on Google, I guess, and it will tell you what they actually mean. But anyway, my favorite song in Lord of the Rings is found in movie number 3, the 5th track, called Stewart of Gondor. And it is Pippin's song that he sings to the Stewart of Gondor, called Edge of Night. Basically, it's when the Stewart sends Faramir, his son, to die, and Pippin's kind of like not cool, and so the Stewart wants him to sing some song for him, and he's just like, I don't know any songs for great halls, almost sarcastically, and he's just like, go sing anyway, and so he sings this, kind of blaming him if Faramir dies. So I really, really like that song, but I wish that there were more songs with lyrics in them. Tolkien wrote a lot of really cool songs, and they just, I don't know, I guess they just didn't use any of them, and I wish they had. So that's probably all I got for this stuff for The Lord of the Rings. You've now probably heard my opinion of it. So yeah.